far as the injuries from the other day, Chandler Brewer had a grade 3 MCL, finished the game, and what an absolute, tough display of physical toughness, mental toughness. Unfortunately for him, he's having surgery today, so he'll be out for 4 to 6 weeks on that. But what an amazing display of toughness for him to be able to, play the way that he did, when he suffered that injury early on in the game. For Alaric Jackson, unfortunately, we do feel like he's going to be okay, but he had blood clots. So he's got to be put on blood thinner medication. And so we'll shut him down for the season. So 2 tough losses for our offensive line. And then as it relates to Cooper Kupp, high ankle sprain, it is going to require surgery tomorrow. And so that will put him on IR as well. And those are, some tough circumstances, 3 players that, challenging, but it does provide opportunities for other guys. But, the main thing is how important it is to all those guys. And you just feel for the human being, because I think in a lot of instances, you just think about, it's just, the team, all that kind of stuff. But this is a real human element, and just seeing the emotions that all those guys had because of how important it is to want to still continue to be able to compete. But because of these situations, they're not able to. It brings a real empathy, a real appreciation for those guys and our players. And it's tough, but you have to be able to, see if we can continue to try to develop some of these other guys that are going to get opportunities that they wouldn't get otherwise.
Gary?
Sean, the loss of Kupp in particular, what does that, obviously huge impact, but in terms of what you're doing and how you have to plan, how you guys have played the last 6 years or 5 years with him, how does that impact you?
Well, I think kind of the answer. It's significant, but what we've got to be able to do is say, all right, let's put our heads together, let's figure out who we're playing with. What do those guys do well? How do we make sure that the plan is in alignment with that, and continue to try to really just pour into these guys and develop them and help them play to the best of their ability with an enjoyment, and, seeing if you can put them in positions to be able to enjoy the op, to be able to make some plays and go compete as well as they possibly can. And that's really, where we're at with it. Obviously you never, ever replace a player like Cooper Kupp. But we've got to figure out, the best way to accentuate the skill sets of the guys that will be playing. It's a lot of guys that we'll be continuing to learn about, because until you play in these types of games, you don't really know. And that's part of what is enjoyable about the challenge and the journey, and trying to be able to, pour into these guys as good as we possibly can as coaches, and see if we can get them to play to the best of their ability.
And then what is Matthew Stafford's status for this week and for playing against the Saints?
Yeah, he's still in that protocol, still working through those types of things. And so he is, we are hopeful to get a little bit more clarity on some of those things this afternoon, whether that means he's out of it or whether he'll continue to remain in it. But I don't have that information right now. As of right now, he's still in the concussion protocol.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sean, will Cooper have the tightrope procedure?
He will, yes.
So on that thread, in terms of that procedure, was it kind of important to you? Let me rephrase this. Why not rule him out why is he on IR? Why not just rule him out right in the immediate, especially in light of the general recovery time for that procedure?
As far as, because it's usually 5 to 6 weeks, right?
Yeah, I'm not asking the question well. I guess you're not closing the door completely on him for the season.
No, I wouldn't do that. But I think, what we've learned more than anything, especially this year, is let's just take it a day at a time. Let's see how that procedure goes tomorrow when he gets that done. Let's make sure that all the things that they initially thought based on what the MRI looked like were in alignment. How does that surgery go? But I don't think you want to pigeonhole yourself into one approach, but you do know that, that's the first step is the surgery. And then, the appropriate steps will be followed after that. But that's kind of where we are right now.
And then for clarity, last one for me, for clarity, why aren't you able to say whether Matthew has a concussion?
That hasn't been communicated to me. I just know he's got to go through those steps. Whether he did or didn't has not been communicated to me.
Okay. Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Nick.
Hey, Coach. You talked about on Sunday about this team and you and the coaching staff being tested. But what are some of the steps that you are taking to continue to keep the morale up despite all of the injuries or the losses that you guys have been able to accumulate over the course of the season thus far? What are some of the things you guys are doing, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well?
I think you have to be able to, appropriately contextualize, what are the things that we can control? What are the goals and what's the mindset and mentality relative to our weekly rhythm, our process that gives us the best chance to go play as well as we possibly can on Sundays, and understanding that there's a lot of different elements, but I think you're always going to be truthful with guys, but I think you have to bring an authentic, enthusiasm, continue to try to put together good plans and then have a consistent process, but one that has the necessary adjustments relative to schematics, personnel that we think are in best alignment to try to go get the results that we want. But I think you got to be more process oriented than ever before. We've always tried to be that way, Nick. And it's easy to say when things are going well. And now you really are forced to kind of put it to test. And where do you find those small victories while not ever minimizing that way? We're trying to go and expect to compete to try to go win a football game. But where do you still find those things that are in alignment with a process that's got improvement being reflected in the way that the guys are playing? And, in a lot of instances, there's so many moving parts that if you get some continuity, that can be better evaluated. But ultimately, we're looking at it day in and day out. We want to be inside out more than ever. And, I think just continuing to connect, collaborate, communicate, and do all those things that we've done and not let these challenges relative to the results of the games and some of the different things that we're working through from just an overall, injury or what have you perspective affect our ability to be able to just, put one foot in front of the other and move forward the right way with the resilience that we talk about.
And you also mentioned before about changes were coming as far as different areas and ideologies, apparently. But some of those changes also may include some of the play calling duties or some of the play calling responsibilities that come along with it, whether it be offensively or defensively.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think, there's an element of, we're all collaborating and trying to put together the best plans as possible. I think in some instances there's certainly, I think, no, that's not going to be what I think is in best alignment for our team. But, we're all in it together. And as we put these plans together, that's kind of what's reflected. And there's certainly responsibilities, but ultimately, those things, they fall on me and I'm more than happy to be able to bear that. But we all work collaboratively together on what we think is best in all three phases.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Maria.
Hey, Sean, we saw Van Jefferson come into the game and obviously have some success at the end of the game. If you can take me kind of through your process, is he ready to take a bigger role? And maybe with the situation with Cooper, he will now, but what's sort of your process on that?
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I think that's a lot of things that he can draw confidence on, Maria, just continuing to get back comfortable playing in real game-like settings and being able to utilize, the ability to be able to separate and play the position the way that he's accustomed to. So if he's feeling good, the answer is absolutely yes. We've wanted to take smart steps to be able to kind of onboard him or get him back in, position, with just kind of a progressive workload. But I do think that's something that he can draw a lot of confidence on the way that he was able to finish up that game. And we're hopeful for more opportunities for Van and more snaps if he's feeling good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stu.
Sean, in wake of the news about Alaric and Chandler, what does that mean for the left tackle and right guard positions?
Yeah, so those are things that we're working through right now. We are hopeful to get Dave Edwards back off of IR, and thought Ty and Secchi, did some good things. But as we're kind of just processing all that and putting the initial stages of our plan together, those are things that we work through.
It's understandable. And then the only other question I had was just what'd you see from Kyron in his first game back from injury, and what's kind of the plan for him moving forward?
I think he did a good job. I was pleased with him. Obviously, kind of similar to what Maria was asking about Van. You saw him get some opportunities towards the latter part of the game, and getting his feet wet in some of that real live competition, I think can only benefit him, give him confidence moving forward, and we'll continue to see what that looks like for the running back rotation.
Thank you.
All right, we'll wrap up with Dennis and then Eric quickly.
Coach McVay, do you see, are you more optimistic that your running game will be more productive going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a different narrative every single week. I think in a lot of instances it boils down to kind of the execution, and we're getting a lot of the the things that we expect and anticipate, and there's always a lot of layers and things that go into the running game. But yes, I am, and those are easier questions to answer once you start to really put your head around. All right, what's the best way that we feel like we want to do it this coming week?
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Eric.
Hey, Sean, with Cooper such a big part of the offense and with the offensive line in flux, how does that change your approach to how you want to build an offense moving forward for the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that's something that's ever evolving. And I think it's really about, all right, well, who are you doing it with? And how do we continue to develop those guys? And what does that really look like specific to their skill sets within the framework of our offense? And so there's been a lot of different reasons why, to be able to establish continuity, to be able to build off of different things. That hasn't been able to be really reflected in the 9 games for a lot of different reasons. But the challenges and the different things are nothing but excuses. And so what we have to really be able to do is figure out what is the best way for us to utilize the players that we're expecting to play. What do they do best? And then how does that get reflected in the way that you're trying to attack, certain schemes relative to the upcoming opponent, and this being the New Orleans Saints. And so those are things that you try to be able to work through, and we'll continue to learn, and it'll be an ever evolving process. But I think the most important thing that we can do as coaches is figure out how do we connect with these guys? How do we focus on that daily improvement? How do we see that reflected with the way that they're playing? Give them a chance to go play with a quieted mind, and put them in positions to be able to go make plays. And that'll be something that we'll continue to monitor for, the remainder of the season with a lot of different guys that we'll be working with, and that'll be playing more snaps than maybe what we had anticipated. But for those guys, it's a blessing to be able to get a chance to go compete.